So today I'm here to do my second pile of shame video. Honestly, I am still ashamed for my first one, and it took me forever to do another one because of how embarrassing it was to do pile of shame number one, but here we are. If you missed my first one, I talked about all of the unread arcs that I still have. I've since read some of them. I've since gotten rid of some of them, and I have a much more manageable size now, but I will link that video up there if you would like to see what I talked about the first time. Today we are talking about YA fantasy. I have a problem with YA fantasy where I was so gung-ho for YA fantasy when I first joined the book community, so I acquired all of this YA fantasy, I gobbled it all up, loved so much of it, and then I got kind of burnt out on it, and I was just kind of like, uninterested. The problem is that YA fantasy is like so much of the book community. So many of the hyped books are YA fantasy, so much from famous authors are YA fantasy. Every book box does YA fantasy. I'm speaking very generally, but you guys understand what I mean. I don't mean all book boxes, all the book community. I know there's many people that read things other than YA fantasy, but it is extremely popular, and almost every month I get a YA fantasy in the mail from my Owl Crate or my Fairy Loot box, so they keep piling up. So here I am with 25 unread YA fantasies. Most of them are the start of a series. I'm not including any books in this list where I have at least read one book in the series. These are all just like brand new little book babies to me. So that's just what my life is going to be. I'm going to be trying to make a very good effort at getting through these, but I just haven't really had the desire to. My reading mood has been more so to realistic fiction and adult science fiction mostly than fantasy lately. So we'll see whenever I get to these. But I am still interested in all of these, so that's why I haven't unhauled them. They like vaguely interest me. I've heard good things about them. Do want to read them. I just don't know when, and I don't feel motivated necessarily to pick them up right now. I'm not going to talk in depth about the synopsis of any of these just because I have so many. The video would be so long if I did that. I have a stack of 25 here. I'm not sure if I said how many I have. I have 25. That's like 3 months of reading for me, so that is quite a lot of books. I'm going to start with two that I've already mentioned in my previous Pile of Shame video about unread arcs, because both of these are arcs. The first one being Shadow Frost by Coco Ma. I don't really know exactly what this is about, other than I think it has to do with like a kingdom that's in perpetual shadow, but I was really impressed with Coco Ma because she actually wrote this like in her senior year of high school, and I think she just is 18, maybe she's just turning 19 now, so I'm really excited to read this one and support a up-and-coming woman author. Then the next arc that I have is The Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. This is very old. This is from 2016. I had this in a trade. I did not get sent this in 2016, but I think I got it in 2018, so it has been on my shelf for 2 years. But this whole series just really appeals to me, and I would like to read it at some point. Now moving into the rest of my pile, I have The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This has been on so many of my TBRs. It is on my must read before the end of the year list, or else I have to unhaul it because I just haven't gotten to it in so long, so I have to get to it this year or else it's gotta go. Then I have Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sim. I thought that this book was a science fiction for forever. The original cover just looked like a sci-fi to me, not a fantasy, but it is a YA fantasy, and it's a retelling of The Count of Monte Cristo. Then I have The Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. This is the only V.E. Schwab series that I have not at least attempted to start. I've read Dark Shade of Magic, I've read Vicious, I haven't read Vengeful yet, and I started the Archived, but I didn't really like it, so I DNF'd that. So this is the only one I have left. I have a duology here called The Story Spinner and The Skylighter. This is a Spanish-inspired YA fantasy series that I got recommended to me by Kristen. She did like an underrated fantasy video, and I got a recommendation for these from her, and the way that she described them, it sounded so good, so I picked them up and they've been on my shelf since. Then I have Blood Air by Amelia Wen Zhao, and I can't believe I haven't read this one yet. This had a huge controversy about it last year, and it sounds so good, and I really do want to read it. I've heard great things. Then I've got Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I love An Enchantment of Ravens, and so I'm very shocked at myself that I haven't picked this one up yet, especially because I have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition. Then I've got Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis. She wrote the Across the Universe trilogy, which I did really enjoy. It's a super fun trilogy, and I heard great things about this fantasy book from her. We also share a last name. Revis is my maiden name, so I automatically feel a kinship to her. Then I have Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh. I've been wanting to read this book forever because it has elemental powers, elemental magic, which is one of my favorite things in fantasy. I love elemental magic. I think it came from my love of Avatar as a kid, so it just translates into books. Still would like to read this one soon. Next up, I've got Bonecryer's Moon by Catherine Purdy. I have no idea what this book is about, but it came in both my Fairy Loot and my Owl Crate. I decided to keep the Fairy Loot edition. I just liked the cover a little bit more, and yeah, beautiful. Then we've got The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. This is being pitched for fans of The Darkling, which I love The Darkling, so I'm very excited about this one. I love Trisha. She is so sweet, so sweet, and I really enjoyed Daughter of the Pirate King duology. I didn't read Warrior of the Wild, but I really enjoyed her first duology, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one. Then I have Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This is a Mulan meets Project Runway YA fantasy, which just sounds like everything I could want. I love this cover so much. I love Mulan. I love Project Runway. This sounds like just the most fun thing I could think of. Then I have one of my most anticipated books on my shelf, and that is River of Royal Blood. This is such a gorgeous book. I love this cover. This is by Amanda Joy, and I've got the Fairy Loot edition that has the black sprayed pages. This is about two sisters who are royalty, and when they reach their 17th birthday, they have to battle to the death to see who survives and who becomes the queen, and I've just heard such amazing things about this one since it came out. Next up, I've got Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I am not sure about this one. I've not heard great things about any of the other Holly Black books other than The Cruel Prince. I ended up getting rid of the Modern Fairy Tales bind-up that I had because I just heard such bad things about that. And this one, I'm not sure if it falls under that same category or if it leans more towards The Cruel Prince, which I did enjoy. It's not one of my favorite series, but I did really like it. I hope this falls under the category of being more like her Cruel Prince series. Then I have The Beholder by Anna Bright. This book I know is not being received very well from the people that I've watched, but I just love the premise so much and it just sounds right up my alley. It's being pitched as like The Selection but for YA fantasy, and I just love that. I love The Bachelor. Anything cheesy like that, I'm just all about, which is kind of funny because I'm really picky about like what kind of cheesy stuff I like in my books, but this sounds perfect for me. Then I have Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow. This is an evil queen retelling, like from the Snow White, but East Asian. And I'm just all about all those East Asian fantasies, just like give them all to me. They're ones that I absolutely adore. Then I have a new addition to my shelf, and that is Incendiary by Zordeva Cordova. This book just came in my Fairy Loot. It is so beautiful. Sprayed pages again. This is one I'm not too sure about. It's about a girl who has to join a rebellion and then she has to like infiltrate the king's palace. And nothing really completely stood out to me from the synopsis, but I do want to give it a shot anyway. Then I have Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan, which I'm honestly a little bit worried to read because the synopsis just sounds so good to me. I believe this started as an Alina and the Darkling fan fiction kind of thing, which I'm all for, as I mentioned when I talked about The Shadows Between Us. All for that. But since this came out, it got really not a great reception. So I'm a little bit nervous about it. I'm going to go into it with low expectations though, and hopefully I enjoy it. Then I have We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, and this is an Arabic YA fantasy, and oh my gosh, I just want to read it so bad. I don't even know really exactly about the plot. I just know I love Hafsa. She is so great. Her candle shop is amazing. She owns Icy Designs, and I have followed her on there for years, probably since I started my Bookstagram account. So when I found out she's writing this book, I was all over it. Then I got this beautiful edition, so I definitely want to read it, even though I don't really know exactly what it's about. I just know Arabian fantasy. I'm like, all for that. Then I have The Girl at Midnight by Melissa Gray. This is a YA urban fantasy, which is like really not my thing, but the same video where Kristen talked about Story Spinner, she also mentioned this one. So I decided to pick it up and give it a shot. The only urban fantasy that I've ever enjoyed was Crescent City, so we'll see how that goes with this one. We're almost to the end of my pile. I've got All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. This book just came in my Owl Crate, I believe. And this is a YA mermaid pirate fantasy. I love Daughter of the Pirate King and I loved To Kill a Kingdom, which were both that like mermaidy pirate thing. So I'm definitely excited to have a new one to read. Then I have Sea Witch by Sarah Henning, which is a dark Little Mermaid retelling, I believe, but more so on the Sea Witch than Little Mermaid. I watched a reading vlog of someone reading this like 2 years ago, and they were just talking about how atmospheric it was and like that like coastal foggy vibes, and I don't know what it was about that, but it just like really drew me in the way that they described it. So I picked a copy up, and it's been sitting on my shelf ever since. So who knows if I'll ever actually get to this one, but it is one that appeals to me. Maybe more in the fall time when it's that atmospheric kind of vibe, it'd be perfect. Then lastly, I've got Daughters of Unread by Rennie Amayo. I just got this book, so I don't feel so bad having this one still on my shelves. I'm hoping to get to it in either August or September, so hopefully you'll see my review for this one coming up soon. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed my pile of shame video. I had okay time filming this. I do feel embarrassed at the amount of unread books that I own, but what can you do about it? New books keep coming out, and I keep wanting to buy them all. Let me know in the comments down below if there's a genre that you tend to not pick up but you just keep buying more of. Like for me, it's YA fantasy. I would love to hear it so you guys can make me feel a little bit less bad about myself. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like it down below and subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye! A long time, and I've just never gotten around to them for so long. I finally need to read the series. And I'm pretty sure that this one is going to be one that I'm going to be obsessed with as soon as I get around to reading it. I know it's one for a long time.